Hey, this is Ryan Pace of the Chicago Bears. Who's this?
Hey, this is whoever you want it to be from the Las Vegas Raiders. You remember us, right?
Yeah. What's going on?
Listen, here's the thing, man. We really screwed up a couple years back, and we're just wondering if you'd be so kind as to possibly part ways with Khalil Mack. We're in some trouble here, and things aren't looking so bright. And you guys got plenty on the defensive side. Why don't you hand it over?
Listen, as of right now, I just got to be honest. I just don't have any Khalil Max in stock, but I got a great Robert Quinn. I got a Robert Quinn. It's available. It's a little pricey, but the upside, the potential could still be there. A veteran presence. I could do that.
You did your best, Ryan, but that's just not going to cut it. Look, we were willing to part with a fourth rounder to get Khalil Mack back.
To get Mack back.
But if you don't want that fourth rounder, then so be it.
We'll take a seventh rounder and Nathan Peterman for Robert Quinn, just to get his money off the books.
That sounds agreeable. Let me go talk to Mr. Gruden real quick. I'll get back to you. Mark Davis is out somewhere doing something.
Yeah,
I'll talk to him.
Yeah, for sure. Your Mike Mayock impression needs work. I'll be honest.
I don't know. Good Mike Mayock.
My Ryan Pace hair, I got the hair for Ryan Pace down, so I'm not worried about that.
That's true. That is true. I don't have the hair for Mike Mayock. So there's that.
It's true.
But yeah, what an interesting story to come out of today, going into week 3 of the preseason, really. But yeah, the Raiders actually inquiring about getting Khalil Mack back.
Well, it just goes to show you how bad the Raiders defense has been. And, they just haven't done enough. Like, I still look at the Raiders defense going into this year going, that's going to be a problem. They are like the AFC version of the Dallas Cowboys. It's like, I still look at the defense and go, I don't like it. I'm not happy with it.
They're in a lot of trouble too, because obviously they're in the Cowboys have the benefit of being in a relatively easy division.
Yeah.
The Raiders do not. So they'll take anything they can get. Look, I mean, hey, I guess you got to try, right? If you don't put the feelers out there, then you never know.
Call. You got to make the phone call. If I was a GM, I'd be making those phone calls all the time. I'd be like, there's always that guy in your fantasy league. For mine, it's David Loopy, who will offer you like 8 really bad players for your best
for one. Yeah, dude.
And you know what? I always respect the offer. I always see the pop up, the email. You've had a trade offer in your fantasy league. And I always respect it. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it, but I respect the offer. I'd be that guy in the real NFL.
Kudos to them for at least reaching out with, he had to think about which 8 players he was going to include. So
make the call.
Yeah, props to David Loopy there. But yeah, and interesting news there from the Raiders. Obviously, the Bears don't seem to be willing to part ways with Khalil Mack anytime soon.
No.
But honestly, if they did offer even half of the haul that you guys gave up for him, would you consider it? I mean, like 2 first rounders or something. I mean, at this point in his career and how the defense has progressed, I would actually maybe consider it. I don't think they'd give up 2 first rounders, but I'm just saying maybe they would. They are the Raiders.
Yeah, I would have to know what the Raiders were offering. It would be really interesting. I don't think you would, because I think that's for the Bears, who are a team that made the playoffs last year and are just looking to keep building and growing and winning and building a culture of winning, of multiple playoffs in a row. Can you start to build that with your young, exciting quarterback? That's such a locker room deflator. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, you're not in a win now mode. So I wouldn't do it unless it was like, you then could sell the locker room on like, guys, this is stupid what they're giving us for it. You know what I mean? But even then, it would be really, really tough. I wouldn't, because I'm the type of guy of always, as soon as you made the trade for Khalil Mack, that's one of those, you make that trade so he retires a Chicago Bear and goes into the Hall of Fame as a Bear. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you make a trade for a player like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. So that makes a lot of sense, trying to keep the core of the team intact, especially a leader like him. And as the highest rated bear on the NFL Top 100. So
Hey,
those lists are always fun, man. They crammed those into 2 weeks, really. Like usually it's a little more drawn out from what I remember, but
I was
hey.
I was so ridiculously it's one of those lists again because it's voted on by the players. So it's interesting to see what the players think of other players, but as soon as you get to Russell Wilson is not a top 10 player, I'm like, all right, well, this list doesn't mean anything to me.
I mean, he was barely outside of it, though. He was right there. I thought I was more, surprised at Brandon Graham going in 95. I was like, he's like a top 50, 60 player.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
there's always some of those for sure. The guys,
McCaffrey was in the 40s, but he was hurt. But still, I mean, he's you can't say he's not a top 15 player in the league, too.
So guys who get injured, the NFL players always do that in the list. They give them, they still get them on the list, but then they don't give them enough credit. To me, I think of it, you have to think of it like this. Don't try to rank them against each other. You have to think of it like a fantasy draft. If all the players are available, who are you taking 1 overall? Okay, that guy's off the board. Who are you then taking if your team's next 2 overall? That's how you have to think of it, in my opinion, to get the most accurate ranking of the 32 best players. And if that were the case, quarterbacks would go probably 1 through 7, 1 through 8, 1 through 9. You mean it would all of a sudden you'd have to be getting down to the Derek Carrs of the world before you start saying to yourself, okay, Aaron Donald's more valuable than so-and-so. So that's how I would rank it. But I get it. The players is a little differently. So they're interesting lists, but yeah, we digress.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get to what everyone's here for you listeners. Welcome back to the Football Lounge here with our NFC Predictions episode. We're very excited for it. And for our viewers out there, episode 1 here on YouTube, we actually do exist in the real world. Welcome to the Football Lounge, and we'll hopefully continue.
I'm doing a shameless plug here.
Go for it.
Kick FM, you got to rep it.
No,
and my mic is really squeaky.
I didn't even realize. I thought you had someone with you or something.
That's just the billboard in the background and my squeaky microphone stand. Yeah. That's great.
This is the beauty of video too. Yeah, it's a great podcast because listeners have no idea what happened, and the viewers are like, "Well, are we waiting for something? What's happening?"
Yeah,
so, great stuff.
Listen, we're trying. We're only a year into this thing. We're still, we're trying to giving us time here. First time recording again. What you'll notice if you're the viewers, because I get this all the time, because I do Facebook Lives for my Saturday morning sports show. You're gonna get the viewers who will ever start watching this gonna say 2 things about me all the time: stop touching your hair and stop touching your collar. I have 2 ticks in life, and I don't know where I got them from. I don't know why, but I constantly put my hand in my hair. I just do, and then I do this.
Hey, if you gotta flaunt it, man.
It's I just like to keep always check my hand. And if you're listening to this, you're not watching. This is not for you. But I'll just do this all the time. And I didn't notice it until I started recording myself all the time doing that show. And then I still didn't notice it, but then I had people pointing out to me all the time, stop touching your collar and your hair. So I'm working on it. All right.
Hey, everyone's got one of those. Mine's, stroking the beard every now and then or scratching it or something like that. So we've all you do have a very nice beard, and I can't grow a beard to save my life. That. Yeah, see, that's why we're the yin and the yang in that regard right there. Yeah, it's a trade-off. Absolutely. So obviously this has been a long off season with a lot of storylines. Aaron Rodgers dominated talk for much of the earlier portions of the season, but now that we're a couple preseason games in, it's a lot of talk of the younger quarterbacks, how some of these teams are coming together, and now we find ourselves within 2 weeks of the NFL regular season. So Mark and I have put together our NFC predictions for today. We're going to go through each division where we have each team ranked in terms of the final seedings, playoff seedings at the end of the year, as well as their individual records throughout the season. We're off next week. We'll be back the following with our AFC predictions. And then before you know it, Mark, we're doing our week 1 recaps.
Yeah. And we want to just make it clear now, we're still 2 weeks away from the regular season starting. So if something dramatically happens to one of these NFC teams, and again, knock on wood, we're not hoping for that, not wishing for it. That way we give ourselves a little buffer in 2 weeks when we do our AFC to take into account. I also have my AFC predictions done, so I'm sure you do as well.
Yep.
And again, so you kind of wait to see what happens over the next 2 weeks. The preseason could change. But again, I don't see anything necessarily dramatically happening. But as always, you want to leave that room for a season-ending injury to an important player or a sudden cut or something that may happen. And all of a sudden you may think about that affecting the way you see it happening. As of right now, though, I was telling Dan this before we started recording, I have never felt this shaky about a predictions. I feel great about the AFC. I feel so strong about the AFC. I feel so shaky about the NFC. And part of it is, I think it's because the NFC is a tougher division. I really do. And with coaching, with quarterbacking, with defenses in the NFC, I keep looking at some of this and going, man, oh man, I think some of these teams are just going to eat each other alive. I think a lot of these teams are just so equally good that you're going to get a lot of cannibalism in the NFC, and you're going to have records where I think some of these teams are way better than AFC teams that are making the playoffs, but they're going to end up around 500 and missing the playoffs in the NFC.
Yeah, no, I'm in a similar boat. I mean, I didn't feel super strong. How I did it was I went on, there's an NFL predictor website that it's an engine that lets you pick game by game, week by week throughout the year, and then kind of gives you where you have the final settings and the final standings there. And so I had a couple surprises at the end of it, because I wasn't obviously, I didn't go in with an agenda. So I was just picking who I thought was the best. And then by the end of it, I was like, wow, I didn't think I would have them as high or them as low.
Totally.
But what I did as well was I tried to factor in each team getting a loss that I wouldn't think they would lose, because
always try to do that.
Yeah. It's only one. It's not enough probably in terms of the analytical approach, but I wanted to throw at least one in there, because obviously not every game you think they're going to win, they're going to actually win. So you throw a wrench into it just to see what happens. But nonetheless, Mark, let's get into it. Unless you have any other additions before we get to our ranking.
No, I would just say, I think for our listeners and for the people who know us, let's leave the NFC North for probably last.
Okay, that's fine.
I think if it was up to me, I would go South, East, West, North. You want to do that order? South, East, West, North?
That's fine. It's a little backwards, but we'll do it.
That's fine. Yeah.
So
let's just get crazy with it.
All right,
you have a strong take in the
I
NFC South, and people already know that. So I kind of want to set mine up to then let you kind of rebuttal it and get this thing going. I'll get started?
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
All right, so I have the Atlanta Falcons in fourth place in the NFC South at 6-11. I think, again, Atlanta's going to run into this issue. I actually think they're going to look like a better football team and at times be more consistent. But I think there's a real lack of depth on the defense. I think that bringing in Arthur Smith, I think their offense is going to take time to really manipulate. I also think this is going to be one of those years where Matt Ryan feels like he has a lot to prove. But then all of a sudden, without Julio Jones, as much as I like Ridley, how will he hold up in a 17-game season as the number one guy? I just think offensively they're going to put points up, but I think they're going to be struggling to get wins in their own division against the Bucks, and I do think the Panthers are better than the Falcons as well. So having them losing immediately, like about 3 or maybe even 4 games in division, you start to say, well, where are they going to find the wins? And the NFC South has a tough competition this year. So I like Atlanta. It wouldn't I think I have the low end of them on the spectrum at 6 wins. I think that's their basement. I don't think they lose 14, 15 games, anything like that. Would it shock me if they get to 8 or 9 wins? No, I have them at the low end at 6-11. I take the New Orleans Saints then at 7-10 and third in that division. And again, when you start a season with an unclear quarterback situation, that really troubles me. As much as I love Sean Payton, their number one wide receiver is not there. They are built to score and outscore you. They have a very good defense and a very good offensive line. But everywhere else, I'm just a little shaky in the back end of the defense and with the skill position guys. Alvin Kamara is great. What's the depth behind Alvin Kamara? At what point in time does Jameis have one of his crazy, wild interceptions in week 2? that then fans start chanting for Taysom Hill. And as soon as they start flip-flopping between Jameis and Taysom, again, I think Tampa's much better than them in division. They're going to lose, I think, both games to Tampa. I think they split against the Panthers and the Falcons, and all of a sudden, you're losing, 4 games in division, maybe 5, and it's like, where do you find those wins? So Saints at 7-10, and I have the Panthers at 7-10. Low end for the Panthers on their win total. I'm going a little under in the Panthers. I think the Panthers start really hot. I think they could have 5 or 6 wins earlier. I think maybe some injuries, youth on defense, and their schedule, I think, gets a little bit tougher at the end of the year. So it's not that I don't like the Panthers. I do like the Panthers a lot. I think the Panthers will be much improved, and we're going to see a Panthers team that is way more competitive and I think a little bit more explosive. Early wins, though. I mean, you look at the early season, and they start the season Jets, Saints, Texans, Cowboys, Eagles. They could be 5-0 through there. I mean, that is a easy schedule to start, but it gets tougher at the end. Tampa, 2 of their last 3, including Buffalo, 3 of their last 4. Buffalo, Tampa, New Orleans, Tampa. I think New Orleans is going to be competitive for trying to get wins there again. I think New Orleans will figure it out by the end of the season. They'll know what their quarterback situation is like. So a really rough end. Miami and Atlanta aren't pushovers for them late as well. With, again, New England and a great Washington football team defense there in the middle of the season. So, again, hot start. If they're 4-1, 5-0 wouldn't shock me. But then all of a sudden, I think losses maybe start to pile up. And how much do they have gas left in the tank at the end of the year in the 17-game season? I'm not sure. I can have them on the low end of that, so I'll give them at 7-10. And then finally, the Tampa Bay Bucks. I have them at 12-5, a little conservative on Tampa. Here's why I have a little bit of conservative on Tampa. Again, they got a tough regular season. They have to play the Bills. They go to the Washington football team. They have that Dolphins defense. They have that Patriots defense. They have that Rams defense. And they're going to get everyone's best shot. I do think, though, they have Panthers, again, that we just talked about late, 2 games against the Panthers. I predict they win both those games. I think they go undefeated in division, and I think that really helps them get 6 of their 12 wins, plus easy games against the Jets, easy games against the Falcons. But there's some easy games against the Eagles, but there's some tough games in there, again, with the AFC East. The defenses with Patriots, the defenses with the Dolphins. I think they lose a couple like shockers. Like I think that Bears game at home against the Bears, it could be one of those you count out the Bears, but the Bears play Tampa well historically. So I think low end 12-5 wouldn't shock me if they're a 14-win team. But I do think coming off expectations of the Super Bowl, what is Tom Brady's health like? As he had major knee surgery in the offseason. They are all a little bit older. Not maybe as a little bit motivated when you got that ring on the finger. You're the champs here. Maybe a little bit like, let's just get to the playoffs. I think Tampa wins their division, so they're not in the wild card round like they did last year, but they're not the 1 seed in the NFC.
All right. Well, yeah, we've got definitely some differences at the top of this division. At the bottom, a lot more similarities, although one of my examples of how I was surprised by the end of the whole breakdown and the predictor, that's where this was the top one here with Atlanta at the basement of the NFC South. But I had them ending up being 4-13, definitely a very low end of this prediction. I would say that has to be absolutely the floor for these guys. I would like to lean closer to a 6-11. But this is how it shook out for me. And I think the case can be made, certainly, for them to have a much more down year than even last season. They have complete turnover in the coaching staff. And while that could be a benefit, we just don't know. There's a lot of unknowns with Arthur Smith, with this new regime, and what's going to come of it. They lose Julio Jones, and they patch in a rookie tight end. Now, whether or not he plays out of the tight end position much of this rookie season, and Kyle Pitts, of course, is yet to be seen. So, I'll pump the brakes on maybe the traditional first-year tight ends don't do much.
Yeah.
narrative, because he may very well assume
He's going to fill a lot of the Julio
outside.
Jones role in a lot. We at least assume, and from what we've seen
Yeah.
a little bit so far.
Yeah, so there's certainly question marks there, but I would still say, regardless, first year Kyle Pitts versus Hall of Famer Julio Jones, you're taking a downgrade on this offense in general from that side of things. Now you're bringing in Mike Davis. We'll see if he can actually help resurrect the run game that was fairly atrocious last year. I'm high on him in terms of fantasy football, but in terms of the overall regular season, we just haven't seen much. I mean, he's been a backup for the majority of his career, so can he actually carry the load? I think there are a lot of question marks with this Atlanta team. Matt Ryan's another year older. The defense still seems to be a big issue. So for them to be last in the NFC South, I think we're in agreement there, and it doesn't seem too far of a stretch to say that they're going to struggle to find a lot of wins, especially even in the division. Third place in the division, I have New Orleans at 6-11. So one game difference there between you and I. You had them at 7-10. I think for many of the same reasons. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be, and either way, I don't know if it's that great. Personally, I think Jameis Winston is the better option for them long term.
Agreed. Well, for the
Because
season,
correct.
starting the games, yeah.
Yeah, obviously Taysom Hill provides a role on this team. He even did it when Drew Brees was here, and they were successful with him there. And he brought some spark to the offense at certain times. But he's much more of a gadget guy, I think, than a full-time starter in this league. We'll see what happens. We'll see what New Orleans does. But I think Kamara is going to be relied upon heavily this year. And it's a heavy workload to take for a guy to have to carry a team like that. Their defense is solid, but still some question marks, especially in the linebacker core. And the offensive line as well. I mean, Ryan Ramczyk, obviously one of the best in the business, but in terms of the overall makeup, there are question marks. And so just a lot of unknowns with New Orleans as well. That's why I have them there at 6-11. Number 2 for me comes in at Tampa. And we're in, fairly similar ground there. I have them at 11-6. And I do think it's going to be a tougher year for Tampa. Not only, were they able to withstand the rigors of a normal NFL offseason and bring the whole team back, which is a huge plus, they also returned Tom Brady, who brought so much life to this team. So obviously they're going to be good. They're going to be a force each week and week out. But there are stretches of the schedule for Tampa that are, concerning. And there are plenty of teams in here that I think could, pull off that upset. And there are multiple occasions where I think that could happen. I think the Bears, what we saw last year, I think the Bears can certainly be a thorn in the Buccaneers' side, even though it's in Tampa this season. I think a team like Washington with a phenomenal pass rush, which is Tom Brady's Achilles, I think that could be, a big factor. And then in that stretch of games towards the end of the season, they play the Colts, they play the Bills at the end of the year, and then they play the Panthers twice. I don't think that's necessarily like a bonus for Tampa. I think having to play the Panthers, especially by the end of the year, is going to be a tough one. And that's why I'm high on Carolina, and that's why I come to Carolina here at number 1 with the same record, 11-6, but they have the tiebreaker over Tampa. And so I think multiple factors play into this. You got Christian McCaffrey back, which obviously that's a huge addition to the team. You bring in Sam Darnold, who is much more of a guy that can stretch the field and make more critical plays instead of a lot of the safe ones that Teddy Bridgewater had. It's not a slight to Teddy. It's just saying that Sam Darnold probably works better with the weapons they have here in the Robbie Andersons, in the DJ Moores. They add Terrace Marshall, who's, a big play guy. I think Sam Darnold's going to have a lot of success with Joe Brady, finally getting some stability with a coaching staff and a system. So I really think, and I'm just a big fan of Matt Rule in general. I think he's a really good coach, and I think he did a lot of good things last year, despite their 5-11 record. Overall, I see this defense being a ton better even than they were last year. And they were pretty good last year. They were just really young, and they're still young, but they brought in some veteran players to kind of help bring some leadership to that side of the ball. You got Jeremy Chin coming back in his sophomore campaign. Expect a huge year out of him. A potential defensive player of the year in maybe not this year, but certainly in the coming years. a candidate there. So a lot of positivity in Carolina. And look, I'm just high on them. It's not something I'm like super stoked to like stake everything on all of my
Yeah.
takes, but it was my boldest prediction for a reason, and it's just because I am confident that Matt Rule and Sam Darnold. It really boils down to whether or not Darnold can get wins, and like we've mentioned plenty of times, 8 losses of the 8 of their 11 losses were by single digits. One possession losses. So
If you look at the schedule,
turn that around.
If you look at the schedule, there's no way to disagree with the fact that the Panthers have a very workable schedule. They really do. I mean, you go Jets, Saints, Texans, Cowboys, Eagles, Vikings, Giants, Falcons. That's your first 8 games. I mean,
you can go 6-2.
I could argue on paper, the only teams that you would say like, oh, we expect them to be better than the Panthers in that would maybe be the Vikings and the Cowboys, and maybe some we would argue the Saints because of roster, but uncertainty in the quarterback position. But I mean, they are a better team than the Jets. They're a better team than the Texans. They're a better team than the Eagles. I'd argue they're just as good as the Vikings and the Giants and the Falcons. So even if those are toss-ups, you're right. I mean, I just think you're staking a lot on the fact that everything has to go really well for them in those first 8 games. I mean, you got to probably to get to that 11 wins. I think you probably have to say they go 6-2 in their first 8. Not unreasonable. It's not unreasonable. Can I ask you this, though? In all seriousness, I don't necessarily disagree that the Panthers could make the playoffs because of that easy schedule in the early bit. But do you actually think the Panthers and the Bucks, if they met in the playoffs, even in Carolina, would beat the Buccaneers? So they're a better team than the Buccaneers, because that's what I'd say. They're not. They do have just a really workable schedule that could get them into the playoffs. They're just not a team that I see making noise in the playoffs at all.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's baby steps for the organization in general. Sure. It's 2015 was a hell of a year, but they're a long way from that. They've had a lot of rebuilding to do, and they're at this point now where winning the division and getting to the playoffs would absolutely be a win for this team, for this organization, and set them up for the future. So that's yeah. I mean, I would think with the playoff experience Tom Brady has and the Bucks in general have, I would probably lean their direction, certainly in that matchup.
All right. So you have you and I disagree there. We'll move on. We'll do recaps, as we get towards the end. I want to move on to the NFC East, as we talked about, and I want to go to the bottom of the NFC East. For me, is going to be the Eagles at 2-15. And again, I just don't love anything. I feel the way about Nick Sirianni as I did about Joe Judge last year. Only to Joe Judge's credit, he really made something out of that Giants team. I don't know what the Giants are going to necessarily be like this year, as we'll get to in a second. But I do not feel confident about Nick Sirianni at all. And that organization seems to be really, really corroded from the inside. I mean, if you believe in the reports about the GM and the owner going into Doug Peterson's office and talking about why did you run this play versus that play, and how can we run this play more, and having to have these meetings, it just to me seems like, wait a minute, an organization I thought was really solid actually has a lot of like this kind of Jerry Jones, no, I make the decisions, I want the credit type of BS going on. And when you throw in a 40-year-old coach, when you throw in a 40-year-old coach who was a quarterback's coach, not even an offensive coordinator, and he gets the job, and you just, I'm like, all of a sudden you're just like, this doesn't seem right. It just doesn't feel right at all. And a young quarterback who I think he's got potential, but Jalen Hurts, it's not like I feel as good about him as I do about, even in his own division. I'll put it this way. I think he's quite possibly the third most talented quarterback. Like, I mean, I guess Ryan Fitzpatrick, just by age, I would take Jalen Hurts maybe over Ryan. But even then, I was like, well, I trust Ryan Fitzpatrick in bigger games more. I trust Dak in bigger games more. And I just know, I think a little bit more what I'm getting out of a Daniel Jones, or at least have still higher ceiling expectations than I do Jalen Hurts. And I just think that he's got an organization that's bad around him. And it's not an easy schedule. I mean, you have to play the Niners early. You have to put the Cowboys, the Chiefs early. You have that Panthers game. You play the Bucks. They're at the Raiders. I mean, maybe do they win against the Lions? I think the Lions are going to be better than they think, but they Chargers, Broncos. It's not an easy schedule. I have them maybe winning against the Jets late, but they play Washington twice at the end. That Washington defense will eat them alive. I think their defense is just as bad as the Cowboys, but the Cowboys offense, I trust a lot more in both those games. I don't see many wins for the Eagles. I'm willing to stick my neck out and saying that they end up 2-15, but not with the first pick of the NFL draft. So a little teaser
All right.
there. I will go to third place in the division, the New York Football Giants. Listen, I liked the Giants this year a lot, but I just struggle with the fact that I don't know necessarily offensively what I will get from the Giants. Saquon Barkley has to be big for them to be really good, because if you look at Daniel Jones's numbers with Saquon Barkley and without Saquon Barkley, completely different quarterback, a completely different team. That's not me being critical of Daniel Jones. It's me saying I have to make predictions based off of what I know. And I know if Saquon Barkley is great and he's Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones is great and they will help win games. I think this is low end for the Giants. I don't see the Giants at 4 or 3 or 5 wins. I think low end is 6, but I think it's a small ceiling. I think ceiling is 8. I don't see them being above 500 because mainly I think that Washington is by far the best complete team in that division. And then the second thing in that division I know the best is the offense for the Cowboys. So I'll get to that in a second. I think Joe Judge kind of burned some bridges this training camp. It's one of those messages that, you saw veterans retiring. I still don't love Joe Judge. He shocked me last year. I thought they were going to be garbage. They were like, okay, garbage, not garbage, like I'm predicting for Philly this year. Giants 6-11. I go to the Cowboys 9-8 in second place in this division. I would like, this was for me when you said the shocker when you're going through picking all the games. If you would have told me going into this, I'd be like, well, I don't think the Cowboys are a playoff team. But then all of a sudden you get to the Cowboys schedule and I start saying to myself, oh crap, Cowboys schedule is actually pretty workable. And offensively, I just know what I get. I think CeeDee Lamb is a stud. And all of a sudden, when Amari Cooper's your second best wide receiver, and I like what I've seen from Zeke in training camp so far, just cutting weight, being a little bit more trimmed. The Dak shoulder elbow thing is a real concern. I don't know what I'm getting from Dak. And to me, this is like, I'll give you like if there's going to be an asterisk, it's probably going to be on the Cowboys and me making changes over the next 2 weeks. Knowing more as we get close to the regular season, what is Dak's actual status? What is he dealing with? You got Troy Aikman and Adam Schefter saying the past 48 hours that Dak won't be healthy all season long. I'm going to just wait that out and play it off. But all of a sudden, after their early tough schedule against the Bucks and the Chargers early, you get the Eagles twice, you get the Giants twice, you play the Panthers, you get a Vikings young defense. You get to host a Broncos team that offensively, I don't know where they're going to be. You get to host a Falcons team that I think is going to be a little bit of a mess. Tough game against the Chiefs, but then you host a Raiders team that has an abysmal defense. And I think their offense, all things considered health-wise, they're better than. I think they lose 2 to the football team late. That hurts them. But then they have a Giants, Cardinals, and Eagles in between those football team games. I think those are all winnable games for the Dallas Cowboys. So I have them at 9-8, sneaking into the playoffs actually as the final wild card team. And then the football team at 10-7, they win the division. I think there's going to be a lot of up and down offensively. It's Fitzmagic for you, but as much as I know the Cowboys offense is really good, I know that defense is great for the Washington football team. I think they win games ugly. I think they look a lot like the Miami Dolphins of last year, only better because I think their defense is just better. And I think Fitzmagic knows he has nothing to compete against. We need to get Heineke in to see what Heineke's like, what they had to do with Tua. This is Fitzmagic's football team. He is going to be given the starting job. He doesn't have to worry about any of that. There's never going to be a 2-game stretch where let's see what Taylor Heineke gets, unless he's throwing 6 interceptions and all of a sudden he's like injured or it goes abysmal. I don't see that happening. I see Fitzmagic thinking to himself, this is my last year to just go out be the starter, not worry about anything. This is my football team. I think he leads to the playoffs, and I think they win the division. And I think it's not really close. I think Dallas maybe makes it close at the end if Dak is healthy. But I think record-wise throughout the year, the football team will always be in the forefront of this division. And again, a similar schedule to Dallas is workable at times, and I do think that the football team could go 6-0 in division.
Wow. So Mark high on Washington.
I am.
And I'm high on Carolina. So obviously,
well, someone has to win that division. It's gonna be I think it's gonna be Washington or Dallas. I'll take football team.
What did you have the Giants at again? What was their record?
6-11.
Okay, 6-11. All right. Well, I'm not in major disagreement again on the bottom half of this division. I have Philly at the bottom at 3-14.
Okay.
So I'm in agreement with you there. I think it's going to be a real rough road here for Philly. The points about Nick Sirianni, well taken. I agree with that. Jalen Hurts, think he's a talented guy. I think he's in a bad situation. The O-line is, somewhat banged up, certainly not as much as last year, but they're already seeing the injury bug hit the receiving core again. Devonte Smith has to be what he was drafted to be immediately for this team to succeed. I don't know if that's the case. We'll see. He definitely has the talent, but it's just tough to expect a guy like that to be the man on this offense outside of Jalen Hurts early on. Miles Sanders, this is going to be what I envision a running back by committee approach with them trying to figure out who is going to be the lead guy. Miles Sanders obviously is talented, but when you have the O-line issues that they have, when you have the overall team issues that they've had, I think it's just a tough road for all of these skill position players to kind of navigate, especially, as I mentioned, when you have some of those injuries in that receiving core. It's just not looking good. And, they've looked uninspired for the most part this offseason or preseason, I should say. And there's just, not a whole lot to be excited about for this season for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I agree.
We'll see, man. Maybe Nick Sirianni can shock a lot of people. Maybe Jalen Hurts can shock a lot of people, and this team, stays competitive. But at the top, it's a tough division. And overall, I just don't see Philly being able to make that push. So, yeah, I have them there at 3-14. Also, for me, not the lowest win total in the NFC, but it's a tie. So I kind of, gave a little bit of a nudge there, but we'll get to that later. New York comes in at third for me as well. I have them at 5-12. You have them at 6-11 there. Same reasons. I don't know what to expect from New York here. I really have no idea. I think Joe Judge could be a good coach. I think, last year, considering what happened with Saquon going down early on in the season, with, some of the issues on defense, and they even had injuries in their, receiving core as well. It's just a lot of banged up guys. So it was hard to evaluate their season as a whole. Daniel Jones also not entirely what to make of him. He had a couple good moments. He also had that long touchdown run where he fell at like the 10-yard line or whatever, where he had breakaway, it was like an 80-yard touchdown. He had moments of like, where you're like, okay, this is actually, a decent, fairly mobile quarterback that can win games with the New York Football Giants. And they won games, just not enough. And I think it's going to be a similar situation this year, really, until they can get a much improved offensive line, because really it's just all Saquon Barkley right now.
Yeah.
And look, they got a lot of nice weapons. But they bring back Kenny Golladay, who's still dealing with an injury. He was injured last year. It seems to be something that's, becoming a recurring issue. Unfortunately for him, he is great when healthy. And then, you got Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Kadarius Toney. They have these weapons, Evan Ingram, but it's really about health with this team as well. But I do think just the sheer talent they have puts them certainly ahead of Philadelphia in these league standings. Washington, I have them at 8-9. I can certainly see them going 9-8, potentially even pushing for 10-7, because that defense is so good. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to get these big plays with Terry McLaurin and guys like Diami Brown, the rookie, who can definitely stretch the field, and Antonio Gibson, a great 3-down back. And then they have a good complement as well in JD McKissick. They have a ton of weapons on this team. And of course, Logan Thomas as well. And so I think there's a lot of excitement with this team with Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in. The defense is stout. They're not going to give up a lot of points. They're going to be in a lot of football games. But I'm not ready to put Washington over the hump yet in terms of, they won the division last year in a just absolutely brutal year for the NFC East. I see them getting more wins than they did last year, but not making the playoffs just yet. They're a couple seasons away in my mind from really being a true force in terms of what they can do in the playoffs. I do think they're tough out each week, but in terms of a potential push for a Super Bowl, not there yet. Dallas comes in at 12-5 for me. I'm usually not very high on Dallas, and they've had injuries too. I mean, this whole division.
You have him at 12-5?
I have them at 12-5 here. The biggest reason for that, for me, is obviously all relies on Dak Prescott here. That's going to be big. But Zeke too. The talent on this offense, you could easily argue, is the most, if not the top 3 most talented offenses in the league. That's not just a small something in an offensive-driven league with a CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Zeke Elliott, and Dak Prescott, and a top 5 offensive line. How you're shrugging there? Who has a better overall offense outside of maybe Tampa and Kansas City? I would argue like Los Angeles and like Green Bay are in that conversation. But this is a pretty well-rounded offensive group.
I would put Seattle above them because the 2 wide receivers, the tight end
brutal though.
Yeah, but Russell Wilson is that much better. I think you have to take that into account when you're talking all overall pieces. And I thought you were going to laugh at me for having Dallas at 9-8 in the playoffs. So the fact that you have them at 12-5 to me, I think that is very bold. But
is that more bold than the Carolina take? Maybe I should have put that as my bold prediction.
That is actually, I think that's just stupid. Listen, you don't make a terrible case, and I agree with you again. Part of it was when you're going through the schedule, you actually realize these are really winnable games, and you do know what you get from Dallas's offense. It is extremely
their toughest
good.
Stretch, their toughest quote unquote stretch, if you could call it that, is really at the start of the season.
Yeah,
with the Panthers, the Patriots, they end up getting the Vikings and the Broncos. Like, okay, that's not a tough stretch, but it's a potential where there's like guys that could steal wins. They really don't have sequences of opponents in this season where it's like, man, that is a month where they're not going to win. I mean, they play the Chiefs, but then they follow it up with like the Raiders, the Saints, the Falcons game precedes that. That doesn't scare me. And then the end of the season, they play Washington twice. Like I said, it's not an easy out, but I think this team can certainly compete with Washington in those games. And then outside of that, it's New York and Philadelphia to end the year. Like in those last pockets of games, I just feel that in terms of the overall schedule for this team, starting out with the Bucks and Chargers is brutal. But and then, like I mentioned, you had the Panthers, the Patriots, the Vikings, like after that, a couple teams that could maybe give them fits. But really, I mean, they play the Giants twice. Those could be easy 2 wins for them. They play the Eagles twice, and easy 2 wins. And some of these other teams, the Falcons, the Saints, like these are teams we're not high on in the NFC. And I think the Cowboys easily could beat them. And then with the Cardinals, you're just talking about a shootout, and it's who wins. So barring injuries, which is something we can't really predict at this point, I think this offense is going to be the one that can carry this team. And I don't think the defense is going to be as bad. I mean, they bring back Van Der Esch. So, I'm not as worried about the defense as maybe I was even going into last year or the year before. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, no, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I have them in the playoffs. It's just one of those things that's a lot of wins. It just feels like a lot of wins. And a part of it is for me, I just don't see them going undefeated in the division. I just see them. I like Washington in both the games. They're late games.
I don't have them going undefeated in the division.
Well, how do you get to 12 wins then if they don't go undefeated in the division?
Well, they beat other teams.
Well,
I mean, okay. So I think they could beat the Cardinals. I have them beating the Cardinals at home, which may be a team game that people would put the Cardinals direction. I have them. Let's see here.
You got to have them beating New Orleans. You got to have them beating Vegas.
I do have them beating Atlanta. New Orleans. Yeah, but is that really out of
it's just a lot.
Is that really unbelievable?
For me, I just don't. I don't. You know what it is? As much as I love their offensive talent, I just don't trust Mike McCarthy. I just don't. I think he's going to get outcoached in a lot of games. I don't know. We'll move on. It's both. We both have them in the playoffs. So I think you're putting a lot into the Cowboys. 12 wins is a lot. When we go into this, I did not see the Cowboys is a playoff team. So you go in 12 wins. It took me off guard a little bit. I will be honest.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But
their schedule is workable, and they do have a ton of offensive talent. All right, so let's move on to the NFC West, and I think this could get a little contentious because this is I think we would agree. I think we would agree this is the best division in football overall, just from a talent perspective. 1 through 4 of the teams. I don't think any of these teams is going to be garbage. I don't see any of these teams being in the top 5 picks. You know what I mean? Anything like that.
Sure.
But that being said, I do think 2 teams in this division struggle this year, but only one of them I have struggling and it being like, yeah, they need to make some changes. And I'll start with that in the 4th place in this division. That's the Arizona Cardinals. I have them at 6-11. And it's hard because I like Kyler Murray a lot. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I do think he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. I like the defensive pieces they've added. I struggle with them in division because I think about it. I think to myself, they have the 3rd best quarterback in their division, in my opinion. I think they have the 4th best head coach in their division, in my opinion. And I think defensively, while they have a good amount of talent, big names, I think there's some age there defensively that worries me. And I worry about their depth defensively and some of their offensive talent. Now we're hearing that Larry Fitzgerald might not actually even play fully this year. And I think he's such a locker room guy. There's some concerns for me. And again, when you actually look at their schedule, Dan, I think by the time they hit their bye week in week 12, they could be 4-7. I like Tennessee more than them. I like the Rams more than them. I think they split against the Niners, so there's a loss there. I think they lose to Cleveland. There's a loss there. I think they lose to Green Bay. There's a loss there. I think they lose to Carolina. There's a loss there, and I think they lose to Seattle in week 11. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute, that's 7 losses. They're 4-7, and they're the type of team because of the way they've built their roster, a very win now all in. That's a panic mode for a coach that we have some doubts about, for a defense that we have some doubts about. So all of a sudden, if you're 4-7 going in your bye week, holy crap, you've got to get to 10 wins to win that, to have a chance to make the playoffs in the NFC. And all of a sudden, on the back end of it, Chicago, Los Angeles, Indianapolis, Dallas, and Seattle are not pushovers. Those are not easy wins. And you got to win almost all of them to make a playoff run. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe they go undefeated against Seattle. Maybe against Carolina, San Francisco, and maybe they beat Carolina as well. And all of a sudden, those go from 7-4 and 7 to 7-4. Maybe. But I'm giving them the Jacksonville win. I'm giving them the Minnesota win in that, and I'm giving them the Houston win and 1 against San Francisco. I feel like I'm being pretty generous to them in their pre-bye week schedule. And I just think coach and quarterback, I like the quarterback in a lot of those games, but coach and defense, I'm not sure of in a lot of those games. So I'll give it, it's hard to say. I know it's going to be one of those things where people will be like, whoa, Kyler Murray, you're hating on Kyler Murray. I'm not hating on Kyler Murray. I think there's other factors go into them being 6-11. And a lot of that has to do with where are they going to get to above 500 before their bye week. I just don't see it. So let me then go to, I think is 3rd in this division with the same record, the San Francisco 49ers. But I think it's a very different type of 6-11. I think that they bounce around early And then they get their young quarterback, Trey Lance, in after their bye week. And after the bye week, it's a lot of then, okay, you're starting your young quarterback. We see the flashes, but that doesn't necessarily turn into wins. You know what I mean? So I think It's the type of season where they're 6-10, but there's positivity going into it because you saw the flashes and now the kid got a lot of game experience. But I mean, they think they win early against Detroit and Philly, 2-0 to start the season. I think they could then easily then end up 3-2. 2-3 by their bye week on a 3-game losing streaks. Green Bay, Seattle, Arizona. Jimmy G doesn't play that well. And all of a sudden, you're starting Trey Lance after your bye week. And you have the Colts defense, you have the Bears defense, and then you have a couple wins against Jacksonville and Arizona, but the Rams defense in there. Minnesota's defense isn't easy. Seattle's defense and Seattle offensively to just outscore you. And so I think they just bounce around, pick up a couple late wins against maybe a Houston, a Cincinnati. But all of a sudden, if you make that change, when I think they're going to make that change, again, in my bold predictions, I just don't see them winning the games. I think them being competitive and having a different energy than Arizona, where it's like Arizona's like, oh, no, crap, we need to win games. As soon as the San Francisco makes that change of Trey Lance, they're okay saying, well, if we're not winning games, it is what it is. Are we seeing the flash from our young quarterback? I think they'll see the flash, just won't turn into wins for them. Also, can I make this point about San Francisco? They have so many guys coming back from injury. And I love all those guys.
Especially that defense.
Yeah, I think they're all great. But I do think that plays into account. They're not going to just all of a sudden be, they're all healthy and all this is all great. You have serious ACL injuries for pass rushers who are the staple of your great defense. That means something. So I'll go to third place in this division, and I think that's the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams end up at 11-6 and is a wild card team in this division, in this team. I love Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford is great, and I think offensively they're going to have a lot of fun. I think defensively, though, they have 3 really great pieces, and then it's a lot of there's some you can be exposed in other places on that defense. I think they lose. Remember, they lost their good defensive coordinator because he's now the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Anytime you lose a great coordinator and on a great defense, that always takes a second. It always takes a hit. I think they have a tough early season regular schedule. Indianapolis, Chicago, Tampa, Arizona, Seattle. That is not an easy way to start your season when you have a quarterback new in the schedule, all that. Now they get a great stretch of wins. New York, Detroit, Houston, all in a row. With Tennessee is not going to be a pushover. San Francisco. But then after the bye week, Green Bay, that's not an easy win. Jacksonville and Arizona, I'll give them wins there. But then Seattle, I'll give them a loss. Minnesota win, Baltimore loss, San Francisco win. I think it's a little shaky. And I just think that Seattle is able to pick up a couple more wins because of the way their schedule shakes out versus the Rams. And that's why I have the Rams at 11-6 and Seattle at number 1 in the division at 13-4. So Seattle's one of those teams I'm putting a lot of eggs in the basket. If you remember at this time last year, I was doing the same thing with Seattle last year, but I think this really does work for Seattle. I get it. The offensive line is the issue, but defensively, I think they're improved. I think they've added weapons. They got Russell Wilson as tight end. You have your 2-star wide receivers. I do think Dwayne Brown plays. I do think he's healthy. I think they figure that out, and Dwayne Brown helps the Seattle offensive line. I do think the offensive line is improved, still a struggle. I like their running back situation. It's not great. I like it. And I think Russell Wilson now knows what it was like to feel that MVP chant and then have that bad skid. I don't think he has that bad skid. You have some really winnable games. I think they start off 1-1, a win against Indy, a loss against Tennessee, but then they rifle off wins against Minnesota, San Francisco, Los Angeles. I think they actually trip up against Pittsburgh. But I like them at home versus New Orleans and Jacksonville. At Green Bay, I actually think it's one of those where they sneak a win. That's a big primetime game on CBS. Win against Arizona. Loss at Washington because that great defense in Seattle's bad offensive line. But then win San Francisco, win Houston, win Los Angeles, win against Chicago, win against Detroit, win against Arizona. Rifling all these wins, positivity going to the playoffs. And Russell Wilson is your most valuable player. And
wow, all right. Finally happens, huh?
As I said last week, is your MVP and your 1 seed in the NFC at 13-4.
Interesting. Okay. Well, so I definitely have some thoughts on the NFC West here. We agree on one team, the Arizona Cardinals, being at the bottom of the division yet again. And this was a tough one for me, too, because I like the team. I like Arizona. I like Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. I like the weapons they have. I like some of their, Buda Baker. And, they got a lot of players that are fun, engaging, good NFL players. The problem is they're in the toughest division in football. And they're just in a situation here where it's going to be tough to stack wins consistently throughout the season. I think that's going to be the biggest problem. They're one of those teams that I still feel is a flashy team that can ride highs and ride lows and, win big, get some big upset victories, but also easily lose games that they should win. And so that volatility makes me uneasy and unsure about them. Plus, I'm just not totally sold on Cliff Kingsbury yet.
Yeah.
And I'm not sold on this run game at all either. I mean, they've kind of been rifling through running backs in recent years, and now they try to, are they going to put Chase Edmonds in a full-time role and then have James Conner be a, supplementary guy and goal line back? We'll kind of see how that shakes out. But right now there's, there's just too much competition for them. And I still think that they are a couple years away from fully reaching their potential as an offense, let alone on defense. That's definitely still in its rebuilding stages. So I have them at 6-11 and in the basement of the NFC West for those reasons. Seattle comes to me in the third place here. And so one of your bold predictions, right, was only one playoff team was coming out of this division.
I said there was only going to be 2.
Oh, 2. Okay.
The NFC West was getting a lot of love that you could have 3 playoff teams. I said 2, and I called my shot with the Rams in Seattle.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so Seattle comes in at 11-6 for me, and that kind of just tells you what I think of this division and how they're going to stack up. Now, I have previously been of the mindset that all these great teams in the division are going to be canceling each other out and aren't going to be able to have as much success. But given how their schedules shake out in terms of the rest of the league, I tried to do my best to put in a couple variables in there to make it so that it wasn't just, okay, the Rams are a better team, I think, this week, so on and so forth. I even tried to throw a couple wrenches in there. Seattle still came out at 11-6. And look, I think it's just going to be a lot of for the similar reasons. I don't know what move they made that is going to take them over the top from what we saw last year. What we saw last year was Russell cooking for a good portion of the beginning of the season, but the team having to rely too heavily on him. That offensive line being terrible and not being able to, keep him protected, and the non-existence of a run game for much of the season as well. Now, with Chris Carson coming back, that is the one thing that could change. But I still don't see it being enough to completely take them over the hump in terms of me considering them now a Super Bowl contender, because last season I really felt that they were a team that could do it. And then we kind of saw what happened. We saw what this team is, and we'll have to kind of wait and see what the new offensive coordinator, his name is escaping me as of right now, what he brings to the team in terms of how they're able to work with Russell Wilson, and maybe they'll be able to get that genie out of the bottle and sustain the first 8 weeks of last year into the final 8-9 weeks of the regular season. But given the longevity of the season, they're really a fairly below average defense outside of Jamal Adams and Bobby Wagner. And so there's not a whole lot you can hang your hat on in terms of the defense. This team may very well be in a lot of shootouts this year. And with so many good defenses, and especially, with some of the defenses that they face on the schedule, it just seems to be too difficult for me to get them over that hump into the 13-win range, if you will. I mean, opening things off at the Colts and then, taking on the Titans, then the Vikings and the 49ers. That's a rough opening month of the regular season, followed by the Rams, Steelers, and then they get a little bit of a break before going to Green Bay. there's a lot of games here that I think could go either way, and I'll still give them the benefit of the doubt and have them a playoff team, which I do, but it's going to be difficult to put them in the higher ranks in this division for those reasons. I have San Francisco at number 2 here at 12-5. Obviously, my bold prediction was that LA would be the 1 seed in the NFC, so we know what's coming here. But 12-5 record for San Francisco for many of the reasons you mentioned. A lot of them, there may not be a bigger turnover that we've seen in recent years from year to year than what I assume may be the Panthers this season, and also the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, the injuries, started with, injuries to the quarterback, Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas, and go down the list. And the running game had its issues at times, which is uncharacteristic. Raheem Mostert had some injuries there as well. George Kittle was not on the team for the majority of the season. So many people and so many key pieces coming back to where this team is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And if it weren't for the LA Rams, I would easily say San Fran is number 1 here in this division and possibly even number 1 in the NFC. But because of the Rams, I have San Francisco coming in at second there. And finally, LA Rams, I have at a whopping 14-3 this year with the best record in the NFC. And a lot of it, I haven't been shy about it. I'm very high on Matt Stafford making a big change to this team and how this team's able to execute. Cam Akers hurts them, but I think the way Sean McVay runs in a system, it's very much like Kyle Shanahan, where you can plug and play guys, and they have talent there in Darrell Henderson. So if he stays healthy, I think their run game is going to be perfectly fine. We know Matt Stafford's very adept off of play action, and they have some of the best, receiving core weapons in this conference. And so with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee there, with a very improved offensive line and a defense that I still think is going to be good. I mean, you made good points, like they are really about faces rather than a unit. I still think they're going to be good. And part of the reason I think they're going to be good is because this team is really going to be able to win the time of possession battle on a weekly basis. I really can see this team having very long, 7-minute opening drives and having that be a commonplace thing, because Sean McVay wants to run the football, and Matt Stafford and company can definitely work their way down the field in a manageable fashion. And so, 14-3, definitely high end there, a big prediction, but I'm going to stick to it because I really think that some people are sleeping on the Rams this year, and I just don't see how they don't come out of this division at the very least number 2, but I'm definitely predicting that they're going to be number 1 in this division and number 1 in the conference.
So I have one question for you then. How many games does Jimmy Garoppolo start for the 49ers?
Well, see, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, I think he will end up starting many more games than maybe what is the mainstream opinion out there. I would give him probably about half the season starting games.
So you have Trey Lance leading this team to the playoffs, second in the division, with multiple big wins late in the season.
Late in the season, but I think by late in the season, they will have already kind of given themselves a decent enough cushion outside of that, opening stretch. So like what they have.
So why, if they're winning, do they go to Trey Lance then?
Well, I just feel like they're gonna eventually go to Trey Lance, just because I think they're just eventually gonna go to Trey Lance. I mean, I don't know for sure. Like I said, I think it's gonna be later. Rather, if we're predicting that all of the rookie quarterbacks are gonna end up starting at some point, which is what a lot of people are working with right now. Okay, obviously Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, we know they're gonna start right away. A lot of people think Justin Fields is gonna overtake Andy Dalton. And look, I think even if Andy Dalton is, 6-4, but he's not looking as great, and they're not necessarily winning because of him, that they could still turn to Justin Fields at that point. It's a similar situation, I feel, with Jimmy G. He doesn't have to be the reason that they've lost a game, but if he's not the reason they're winning games and they feel that they can take things over the top, I don't know. Like, who knows? So
it's interesting.
I don't know what to think in terms of how they're going to handle.
If you think that the season ends with Trey Lance, then to me it's like you got to be saying to yourself, Trey Lance is playing at least the last 6 games, 7 games. and he's winning multiple games.
I mean, yeah, but I didn't say he's not winning multiple games.
No, if you're saying that Trey Lance will start
if Trey Lance plays
and they
the
win
final
that many
6
games,
weeks, if Trey Lance plays the final 6 to 8 weeks, whatever, I could easily see him getting several wins over the Texans. They play the Falcons, the Bengals, the Vikings, the Jaguars. I mean, there's a lot of teams here at the end of the 49ers schedule that is, suitable. And so, I just don't know what to make of it. I could see Jimmy G playing the whole season. I could see that happening. I could see them waiting till next year to have Trey Lance go out there. But I'm willing to predict that Trey Lance will get thrown in there at some point, given all of the big plays that we've seen. And we know that Kyle Shanahan really loves the guy and wants probably chomping at the bit to get out there sooner rather than later.
All right. We do disagree completely on the 49ers and their trajectory this season. That's all right. That's why we do this. All right. Let's move on. I do respect the Rams stuff though. I mean, I have him at 11-6. I think that Stafford's gonna have a great year and I can't wait to watch the Rams. I'm so excited the Bears play the Rams week 1.
Yeah.
So I can kind of
look at them.
Because it's like if the Bears have to play the Rams like week 16 or 17 and I'm trying to get the Bears to the playoffs, it'll be hard because that Rams, I'm so excited to watch the Rams and I want to be able to watch that first game and just see it all come out and go down way it goes down. All right.
For sure.
NFC North. I will go with the 4th place team in the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings. Sorry, to burst your bubble, purple people eaters, and Lizzo.
Last in the division. Look at Dan Campbell go.
Lizzo, 6-11. I'll put the Vikings. So,
wow, all right.
Part of it with the Vikings is this. I think their schedule is workable, but I think the problem with the Vikings is I just all of a sudden now firmly believe they have the 4th best quarterback in the division. And I do think that as much as I like and respect Zimmer, I just don't know if that defense is improved enough. And I just think that offensively, they're going to really struggle to put up big points. I think losing the tight end, Rudolph, I think that Justin Jefferson is fantastic and Thielen is fantastic. But again, we saw how bad they were at times offensively when they lost Kevin Stefanski last year. And I just don't see where that gets better for them. And all of a sudden, Kirk Cousins, I just think is going to look so unathletic in that division. And their schedule is not easy. They may get an easy win or two to start the season against Cincy and Arizona, but then you have Seattle, Cleveland. I think Detroit is going to be improved. So I think they split against Detroit. So even let's say they lose that one, against Detroit, all of a sudden they could be 2-3. They play a Carolina team that I have higher expectations for than them. They could be 2-4 heading into that bye week with a quarterback who could be struggling and an offense that could be struggling and a defense that hasn't improved enough. Then you have Dallas. We both like Dallas to make the playoffs. Baltimore, Chargers, Green Bay, San Francisco. Yikes. That is a stretch after your bye week. And unless they find a way to beat Cincinnati, Arizona, Detroit, and Carolina. So maybe they're 4-2, but even then they could go after their bye week with a loss against Dallas, loss against Baltimore, loss against Chargers, loss against Green Bay, loss against San Francisco, 5 straight losses. And all of a sudden, I just think that's a brutal stretch for them where they have the worst quarterback in all of those games. Even if it's Jimmy G or Trey Lance, at that point in time, I still think it'll be Jimmy G. No, I think it'll be Trey Lance at that point in time. And then a game at Detroit. I think Detroit's going to be improved. I think they lose against Pittsburgh. I don't think they're as good as the Steelers. We'll talk about the AFC in 2 weeks from now. I don't think they're as good as the Bears. I think they lose at the Bears on a Monday Night Football. That's Kirk Cousins in a big game. And then they have to go Rams, Green Bay, Bears again. So I think this could unravel very quickly for Minnesota. I have them at 6 wins. I do think that's probably the low end of their end. I do, but I think the high end of it is 8 wins. So I don't know what to do with them. I'll go low end, mainly because I do like Detroit. I may be the one guy who, and I say this, I like Detroit. I have them missing the playoffs at 7-10, but I think Detroit is not as sloppy as everyone else thinks they are. I think Dan Campbell can have a Joe Judge effect for a year. And I actually think it's not as much Dan Campbell being the mastermind genius head coach. His staff is incredible. He put a great staff together with Mark Brunell, getting him in as the quarterback's coach. Anthony Lynn, the Chargers head coach, now the offensive coordinator. I think that's great for Jared Goff. I think that's great for an offense with Hawkinson that has weapons. I think that Jared Goff is going to run a very, very systemed offense. And I think that Jared Goff against a Green Bay defense, I think actually takes a slight step back. A Chicago defense that's very good. The Minnesota defense that's shaky on. I actually like Detroit to find their way to 7 wins. And I can kind of go through the schedule here just a little bit. You know, it's not easy early. I think they struggle early. They could be 0-4 in Minnesota. They get a win at Minnesota, a win at Cincinnati. Tough loss to the Rams in week 7, but then a win against Philly going to the bye week, winning 3 of 4. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, tough losses. I do think they split with Chicago, so they get a win against Chicago, get another win against Minnesota. Denver, by that point in time, their quarterback situation, who knows what that'll be like. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks. Arizona, I think, will be floundering by that point in time of the season in week 15. They could get a win there. Atlanta, a win there. And all of a sudden, you got 7 wins. You lose to Seattle and Green Bay at the end of the year. Or maybe they win against Green Bay because Green Bay could be resting people at that point in time. Seattle could be as well. I think there's a way for me to convince myself that the Lions get 7 wins. Was just spent 4 beautiful days in Detroit. I have a soft spot in my heart for the city of Detroit. The Lions are my second favorite team. I know it's weird as a Bears fan, but I just always felt that way against the Lions. My dad grew up in Detroit. So I have, maybe call it a soft spot, but I think part of it is the unraveling of Minnesota. And I think that Detroit is just not going to be as bad as I think everyone predicts them. I know you're about to say Detroit's going to be the number 1 overall pick. I know it's coming. I have a feeling you're going to go that way. I've convinced myself, maybe it's heart overhead, that Detroit can find their way to 7 wins. Let's go Lions.
Man, the Lions and I never thought I would be lower on those 2 teams than you, but I am. So this will be.
Oh, so you hate the Vikings? You don't think the Vikings get to 6 wins?
No.
Oh, see, all right. So, but again, we're in the same spot there. I think we're fair enough there. All right. Chicago Bears come in at 3rd in the division.
Bears.
And they make the playoffs as the 6th seed in the NFC.
What do you mean 2nd in the division?
2nd in division, 6th seed in the NFC for the Bears. So I will lay out how the Bears, this works for them. I think they lose their opener against the Rams. I think Andy Dalton revenge game against Cincinnati. He gets a great win for the Bears at home
what a
against
great win.
Cincinnati. I think he looks abysmal against the Browns and that defense. And I think, all right, Justin Fields time.
It's one bad game, huh?
Fields takes over in time to beat Detroit, to beat the Vegas, and to beat Green Bay at home. I think they upset Tampa on the road. All of a sudden, 4-2. I think they win against San Francisco, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Bears. I think they lose at Pittsburgh Monday night. Bye week.
I'll be there, by the way.
I know you will.
So, yeah.
Bye week, I think recovery, but it's a loss against Baltimore. But then they rifle off wins. Detroit, Arizona, back-to-back wins. Loss at Green Bay. Win against Minnesota. Loss at Seattle. Win against Giants. Win against Minnesota to wind out the season. Bears, 10-7. Justin Fields, Rookie of the Year. Bears, maybe not Rookie of the Year, but Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Gonna say. Okay.
Bears, 10-7. And Bears. That's all I'll say.
And Bears. Okay. All right.
But a great win for Andy Dalton at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Great
huge win. Huge.
And you know what? It builds off his just viability as a backup quarterback for a couple more years. Finally, I will give Green Bay the nod at 11-6 and the win in this division and the 3 seed in the NFC. And I will say this. There's so much of me that wants to give Green Bay more wins. But I just got a really great feeling. There's going to be times where Aaron Rodgers does things this year on purpose to be like, F you, Green Bay, and F that play call, And I'm going to force it to my guy Cobb and maybe throw one or two more picks than he normally would. I'm going to force it to my guy Adams, throw one or two more picks than he normally would. I think it's in trouble. And they have a tough schedule. I think they do lose at San Francisco in week 3. I think they lose against Pittsburgh at home. I think they split against Chicago. I think they lose against Washington and that great defense. I think they lose at Kansas City and Seattle. I think they lose against the Rams. And I think they lose against Baltimore. But otherwise, I think they can beat Cleveland, split against Chicago, sweep Detroit, sweep Minnesota, win against Arizona, win against Cincinnati, win against New Orleans early on. But I don't think it's easy sledding. I think they have losses at San Francisco. Let me find their 6 losses here. Losses at San Francisco, at Pittsburgh, at home against Washington, at Kansas City, home against Seattle, and then either Baltimore or the Rams. They'll win one of those two, lose the other one. So I think that's where they get their 6 losses from. I think they're good. I don't think they make any noise in the playoffs. And I think Aaron Rodgers has a very good season, but an uncharacteristic interception season because I think he tries to force it to some of his guys at times, but they still win the division.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. This will be fun. I'm looking forward to this. So yeah, I agree. Green Bay wins the division. All right. That has been our NFC predict. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So yeah. Detroit comes in at the basement here at a whopping 3-14, tied with Philadelphia for the worst record in the NFL, or well, I should say the NFC. I don't know what my lowest AFC team is yet. I have to go double check that. But they opened the season potentially 0-7.
Yes,
easily.
It's possible.
49ers, Packers, Ravens, Bears, Vikings, Bengals. You could say they could probably pull off a win of either one of those. But Rams after that, I mean, that's a rough 7 games right there. And then, like you mentioned, Eagles, Steelers, Browns, Bears. That's another 3-1 or 1-3 stretch at best. And I'm just not seeing it, Mark. I'm not seeing it here with this team. I don't know where they got better. I know where they got worse. They swapped Matt Stafford for Jared Goff. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a massive downslide, but it's certainly not an upgrade. And I don't know what to make of DeAndre Swift. I mean, I don't know he's a talented guy, but I mean, their other 2 running backs, the depth that they had on this team is gone with Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson. They ran Kenny Golladay out of town. They don't have Marvin Jones there anymore for a couple years. So I'm really wondering what this offense is going to look like. I mean, we're going to rely on probably a rookie wide receiver and Amon-Ra St. Brown to be like the leading threat outside of TJ Hawkinson. I'm just not seeing it with this offense. And then on defense, I mean, that's been an issue for this team for quite some time. Now you could say Dan Campbell brings, a little bit more of I guess, some spunk to that defense, if you will, that attitude that
the CEO
brings, the CEO, the biting kneecaps. But really, I mean, I know they spent a 1st-round draft pick on Jeff Okudah, but their 2 best cornerbacks were given the door. So you draft a 1st-round unproven corner to fill the void of 2 of your best corners. Yeah. And we know that Darius Slay was already gone. So I mean, I am extremely worried about this defense in general. And then not to mention the question marks on offense that we just have no idea who's actually going to emerge, who's going to be. I mean, TJ Hawkinson could probably dominate this year, given that he's probably the only guy demanding targets outside of DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. I'm not bullish on the Lions this season for obvious reasons.
It's
and
fair.
3-14's low. I know it's low. And I think overall they're a better team than Philadelphia, but not by much. And so they're both at 3-14. You could give a game either way, but I'm just not seeing it. It is
fair. Like I said, for me, I look at that 4-game stretch and I have them going 4-0 in the late in the season, winning 4-0 in December against Minnesota, Denver, Arizona, Atlanta. And that's where I found I just gave those wins to Detroit, because I think Atlanta's a mess by then. I think Arizona's a mess by them. Toss up against Denver, who's their quarterback. And I think they split against Minnesota. So I give them the home win against Minnesota. So that's where I got those 4 extra wins. But you're right. They have to play Seattle, Green Bay, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, the Rams, Baltimore, Green Bay. I mean, it is a brutal schedule for the Lions.
It's very tough. And, even that Broncos game, it's like you got a dome team going to Mile High in December.
I know.
Like
it's brutal.
And with Jared Goff at that, like he has struggled in some of those types of games. So yeah, just not high on them. I have the Vikings that I am not high on at all either. Here at 4-13, this is how it worked out with my schedule prediction. Now, this is by far the lowest floor I could imagine having them. It's how it worked out, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to stick to what I had in my predictions for the schedule, and that's just how it goes out. And I think there's certainly a pathway to that. They opened the season with a couple games that I could see could be wins here against the Bengals and the Cardinals, but then we're talking about a stretch where the next 5-6 games include the Seattle Seahawks, the Browns, the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Packers, the 49ers, the Steelers. Yeah. Then, we're really racking up the competition here late. For them to stack wins is going to be real tough. Even if they start out 2-0, they could still go 4-13 because they could conceivably go 0-8 during that stretch following. And then we're talking about game that maybe they'll pull one out at the Lions, and then maybe a random home win against the Bears at the end of the season or something like that. I don't see this team making a significant push for this division at all. And yeah, I have them at 4-13 there. The defense has taken huge steps back from the Mike Zimmer hardcore defense that we used to know and respect and appreciate throughout this league, even just a few seasons ago. Yeah, taking a lot of hits, and the offensive line has not been getting better, as you mentioned. Irv Smith Jr. Maybe he's actually an upgrade over Rudolph. We'll see kind of how that pans out. Thielen and Jefferson, obviously big weapons there. Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league. They have talent on this offense. And Kirk Cousins is a guy that can get it done. He's not atrocious by any means. He's just not one of the top quarterbacks in this league. But given how in rough shape this defense is, and given the O-line problems and my lack of trust in Kirk Cousins in general, not to mention the brutal schedule that they have here, especially down the stretch, I don't see it panning out for Minnesota in this one. You have them at 6 wins. I could see them eking out a couple more for sure. So I'm not, tied to this 4-win floor for them. But, that's my current prediction. And then at the top, I have a lot of improvement here. I have Chicago going 10-7. The problem is that 10-7 is not good enough to make the playoffs here. And this is why. Yeah,
because you got your Cowboys with 15 wins here.
They won the division. Everyone. They're locked in. If anything, it's the 3 teams.
It's your
in
NFC
the NFC
West. I know. Trust me, I strategically, we all know what I did and how I made it work. But yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's just how it shook out. And I think Chicago is a much improved team this year than from last year. But that particular stretch in the middle with Green Bay, Tampa Bay, San Fran, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, those 5 games, that's really tough. And they're a team that I could see weathering that storm and not going 0-5, but the potential that the 0-5 lingers there is the biggest thing that really that I struggle with finding room for them to completely make up for that elsewhere. And so really I gave them an 0-5 in that direction. And then, like I said, I added one random, team that I thought, they would, lose to, that they were expected to win. I don't know the exact game that I had that picked right now, but that's where I have them sitting 10-7. I think that's fair. I think that is kind of where this team is going to be at. That could change. It's my complete uncertainty of whether or not Justin Fields is going to enter the starting lineup early in the season, mid-season, or at all. I really don't know. Matt Nagy is very, very insistent on giving Andy Dalton his shot. which makes me think that even if Andy Dalton gets his shot and has one really bad game, that's not going to be enough to dethrone him yet. It's going to have to be a couple disasters in a row. And
Well,
maybe it is
remember
during
the
that
history.
stretch.
Remember the history with the Bears. Last year, they kept saying, Mitch is our guy, Mitch is our guy. It took what he was 2-0. He had one bad half in Atlanta through a pick, and it was done.
Yeah, but I think that stems from a lot of inner frustration in Matt Nagy.
But remember,
does that frustration sit there with Andy Dalton?
No, but
they love the guy. They think he's a good dude. They think he's working hard.
But they know the only way that Pace and Nagy keep their jobs is if they show they're the guys to usher in the Justin Fields era, and he wins and he's exciting under them. So I feel like there's that pressure is big too. I have a feeling.
But you want him ushered in before that stretch of Green Bay, Tampa, San Fran, Pitt. That's not going to make them look very good against some of the best defenses in the league.
No, but I do think that Matt Nagy also has to protect his reputation. His offense will look better under Justin Fields than it will under.
I agree. I would be for them starting him week 1.
I think you can go. You let it happen this way. You just let Andy Dalton lose to the Rams, beat the Bengals, lose to the Cleveland, say, all right, we're going to Justin Fields, get some wins against Detroit, Vegas, build up the confidence, try to get some momentum. And who knows, you have Green Bay at home. You always play Green Bay tough. They're your biggest rival. Can you look good against Green Bay, sneak out a win there?
What if they're 3-1 in that starting stretch, though? Like, what if Andy doesn't play that bad? And then they go into that stretch
wins
of
against
Green Bay
Cincy, Cleveland, and Detroit.
Yeah, well, if they go 3-0,
listen, if Andy Dalton gets you to 4-1, and your only loss is that opening night against the Rams, then you ride out Andy Dalton through the bye week, because he'll lose against Green Bay, he'll lose against Tampa, he'll lose against San Fran, he'll lose against Pittsburgh, but then you are 4-6, and you're at your bye week. And you say, all right, now we're 4-7 after the bye week. Justin Fields first start, lose against Baltimore.
Yeah.
But then he can win against Detroit, Arizona, Minnesota, New York, and Minnesota. You're not making the playoffs. We're both going to miss our predictions. But I still think Bears fans could take that. I just don't see Andy Dalton being that guy. I think he's going to look so bad against the Rams. They'll give him the chance against Cincinnati. He'll bounce back, beat the Bengals. He's going to look so bad in the first half against Cleveland. I wouldn't shock me if Justin Fields is in the second half against Cleveland. And it plays out just like it did again last year with Mitch and Nick Foles.
I'd be interested to see it. But
we got to wait it out.
We got to wait it out. Green Bay comes in then, obviously, at number 1 for me. They're the 2 seed in the NFC at 12-5. Like I said, I think Aaron Rodgers repeats his MVP this year because he's a stat master. I disagree with the interception prediction on your part. I see where you're coming from, but I think he's still going to dominate. I think he could easily throw 50 touchdowns this year and have a 6-pick type of ratio there and just dominate with this team. This offense returns everyone except Corey Linsley. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Aaron does and what is likely his final season in Green Bay. And I think those factors alone, paired with the fact that they've been very consistent in terms of how they've performed under Matt LaFleur, 2 straight years, conference championship. Obviously, they've underachieved because they should, with the talent they have gotten to the Super Bowl. But nonetheless, I think all of that carryover and that consistency is what brings me again to them being 12-5 atop the NFC North, and just missing out on that 1 seed to the Los Angeles Rams. So, Mark, that brings my NFC overall seeding standings here.
I'm writing it down. Hold on. Go for it.
1 seed is LA at 14-3. The 2 seed is Green Bay at 12-5. Dallas with the 3 seed at 12-5. And Carolina with the 4 seed at 11-6. The 3 wild cards. 5 seed San Francisco, 12-5. Tampa Bay at 11-6 gets the 6 seed, and Seattle gets that final wild card spot as the 7 seed with an 11-6 record.
Wow. What was San Fran? What do you have the records for San Fran, Tampa, and Seattle again?
San Fran 12-5, and then I have Tampa 11-6.
And Seattle 11-6.
And yes.
Wow. Okay. For mine, it is the number 1 seed is Seattle at 13-4. The number 2 seed is the Bucks at 12-5. The number 3 seed is the Green Bay Packers at 11-6. The 4 seed, the football team at 10-7. Then your wild cards are the Rams at 11-6, the Bears at 10-7, and the Cowboys at 9-8.
Who was your 2 seed again? I'm sorry.
2 seed is the Bucks at 12-5.
Okay, yeah. All right.
So we have some real differences here.
We do, which is good. Last year we were a little more similar. This year
it is good.
We've got a good.
We both have
variety
Tampa,
here.
Seattle, Dallas, Green Bay, and the Rams. So we differ. Yeah. We only have 2 teams different.
But the seedings are very, very different.
I have the Bears and the
football team in.
Football team. You have the Panthers and San Fran in.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we will do some, like we always do, some social media posts. Let everyone kind of vote on it, who they think is right, who they think is wrong. We'll kind of give you all the divisions here, especially because we have 2 weeks off until we get our AFC predictions in. Yeah, you know what? We'll wait and see. I think overall our thoughts are pretty similar on how the season's going to go. As far as as far as teams that actually have a chance to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC, I think we both agree it's Rams. It's Packers, it's Tampa, probably, right? That's what I look at.
Yeah, I mean, I know I have Tampa as a wild card here, but I think they're a terrifying team in the playoffs. But I actually would throw San Fran into that mix.
Okay.
I think San Fran will be more dangerous at that point.
All right. We disagree there.
Just because the defense is so good. I know Tampa's defense is so good too, but San Fran can run the ball all day. And I mean, postseason football, that's where it's at in my mind. Like if they can run all over, if they match up with Tampa Bay at some point, I would take San Fran in that battle.
Yeah. As of today, I think there's only 3 teams in the NFC that I would bet money would end up in the Super Bowl. And that'd be the Bucks, the Rams, or Seattle. Those are my 3.
Okay. I would love for Seattle to make it. I've been a big Seattle fan for some time. A big Russell fan,
Wilson, yeah.
But it's just, it really, it seems to fall apart at the worst times. So that's been fun. That is our NFC predictions. As Mark mentioned, please let us know your thoughts as well. We will have those postings on social media as well. And go check out the YouTube page as well. We'll be setting this up right after this recording. So getting the first video out there, and hopefully we'll be able to do this throughout the season. But be sure to follow along. Have a nice week as we take a break off next week, coming back with those AFC predictions. And then we are off and running for the rest of the 2021 NFL season. Cannot wait. It's been a long wait, but then a short one at the same time. It always creeps up on you. So looking forward to that. But yeah, be sure to hit us up on all the social medias and check us out on whatever streaming site of your choice. So until 2 weeks from now, take care, everyone.